Well, welcome to the 8th Annual Peace Fest. Today's event is a little different than it's looked in past years. We kind of have this progressive event throughout the day. So we're starting in here with Alicia Retes, and we're so excited for what she has brought to us today. But one of the things that the Community Center has really taken on is an acknowledgement of our history. And so I wanted to start by reading our land acknowledgement as the fire alarm goes off. Reading our land acknowledgement that was approved by our Community Center board. We read it before every board meeting and other important events, just to be really present to the history that we are a part of and where we are sitting today. The San Geronimo Valley Community Center acknowledges that we are located on the unceded ancestral lands of the Coast Miwok people of present-day Marin and southern Sonoma counties. We honor with gratitude the land itself and all of its ancestors, past, present, and emerging. Thank you. So with that, I will pass it to Alicia. Oh, enjoy.
Well, good evening, everyone. Let's see, in honor of the Coast Miwok people, I greet you in their language, which is Opantawish. And basically it means, hello, how you doing? Literally it means, are you being good? And to answer back, an individual would say, Katowish. Can you say Katowish? Katowish. Excellent. I want to be perfectly clear, I am not Coast Miwok. I'm of a mixed heritage, European, and as it relates to indigenous people, I'm of the North American, the Geronimo, commonly known as Mayo, peaceful farmers and artisans, and the Yoemi, commonly known as Yaqui, fierce warriors, but also farmers and amazing dancers. Tonight I'm going to be doing two pieces for you. One is in honor of the Coast Miwok, Oye Oyish, and how he stole music from the water. And then I'm going to do an adaptation of the Three Sisters, Corn, Bean, and Squash. Have any of you heard of them? Good, because they're everywhere in this room. All of these here, the little ones, that one, these two in particular. So, in the before, a long, long time ago, when time was not stuck in a clock, time was moving and traveling with the winds, blowing cold, cool, warm, or hot, touching our skins, announcing the changing of the seasons. Time was arriving and leaving like the ebbing tides, arriving and leaving like the migration of fish, whales, birds, bees, and butterflies. A time when the plants and the animals did rule. And in this time, everyone paid attention and was directed by the changing of the seasons, winter, spring, summer, and Oh, yes. Everyone listened to the messages carried on the winds. This is when our story begins. Oye Oyish, grandfather coyote, had been walking along the country. He was getting kind of thirsty. So he went down to the river and he found a spot to drink from. And he started to drink. And as he drank, he heard the music of the water. Slow music. It was sounding like, can you make that sound? Yes, exactly. And Coyote just loved that sound so much that he took out his tule reed, hollow cushion rather, and he began to drink up that sound. Good melody. And so he went down a little further to another part of the river, a place where the river was going a little faster, and it sounded like, you make that sound? Exactly. And Coyote said, yeah, that's a good song. I'll be taking that one too. Good song. And so he went down a little further, and he came to a place where the water was going really, really fast, and it sounded like hands clapping. Can you clap? Exactly. And water was splattering up to the rocks. And Coyote said, oh, yeah, I gotta have that tune too. And he took his tule reed in a three songs today. Well, meanwhile, Chuck of grade school had watched Coyote taking the music, and then Deer, too, saw him taking music from the water, and Bear, while he was fishing, scooping up some salmon, he'd heard the music disappear too. And then Crow came along and said, Coyote's stealing music from the water. We've got to get you. And so Coyote quickly set upon his tuning mat, much larger than this. He sat on it and he flew up high. And like a magic carpet, he kept flying and flying. All the other animals were chasing him. And finally, he went far, far to the east where the sun gets up. And there was the one and only elderberry tree. And so he took all those songs and he put them all into the branches of the elderberry. And the animals and the birds were getting close, and we quickly turned around and went all the way to Bolinas Beach. And he turned himself into driftwood so nobody could catch him. He was rolling back and forth. Well, eventually, his grandson was born, and they found him. But that's a story for another day. And from that, the follow-up was, eventually, Coyote taught the people how to play music with the elderberry clappers. And here is looking for my, oh, here they are. I organize things and then I forget how I organize them. I never do that. So here is a branch from the elderberry tree. You see how perfectly straight it is? It doesn't grow naturally straight. And the thing you should know about most indigenous people, not all, but a great many of them, were managing these lands. They weren't just simple hunter-gatherers, especially the Coast Miwok. They were pruning back their trees. To get a branch this straight, you have to constantly prune it. So indeed, that is how the clapper sticks are made, by pruning the branches of the elderberry, then taking the bark off and cleaning out the pith inside. And once you do that, you hollow it out like this. And then if you only hollow it out, it'll sound like that. But if you hollow it out and, hollow out and split it like this, then you get stick rattle. So I invite you to sing with me. Could we get someone maybe that would be willing to pass out the clapper sticks so you can get an idea of what they're like? Yes, I'll take all of these. Pass them out. I'll pass them in the can. Let's see. We'll do, that song I sang was a song I composed in English, Costa Rican, and Spanish. But it takes some time to learn that one, so how about we sing it in English? And we'll do call and response. So I'll start when I point to you, it's your turn. Come coyote, come coyote. Let's sing, let's sing, let's sing for our families. Let's sing, let's sing, let's sing for our families. Come coyote, come coyote. Let's sing, let's sing, let's sing for our families. Let's sing, let's sing, let's sing for our families. Come coyote, come coyote. Let's sing, let's sing, let's sing for our families. Come coyote, come coyote. Let's sing, let's sing, let's sing for our families. Last time. Come coyote, come coyote. Let's sing, let's sing, let's sing for our families. Let's sing, let's sing, let's sing for our families. And when you end the song, we all say, oh, are you ready? Oh! Thank you. Oh. We can bring those back up. And I will get a little water. Pretty high in here.
Oh. Speaking of the thing, I'm sorry.
That's okay, no worries. I'm dry. Oh, it's lovely speaking with this camera. I'll do a little comparison here. The new ballot. This is Cosmic block, and also Toma, I believe, other California Indian style deer hoof rattle. And this is a bone, and here are the hooves, and you play it this way. And then down in Mexico, my family's from Coacabampo in Sonora, Mexico, they also use, they used deer hooves, but there are fewer deer, so they're using goat hooves. And it's the same idea. So I'm going to use that one and sing a Cherokee water song. If you know the lyrics to it, you're welcome to join me. Wichita, do-ya, do-ya, do-ya. Wichita, do-ya, do-ya, do. Wichita, do-ya, do-ya, do-ya. Wichita, do-ya, do-ya, do. Acha-cha-nea, way-ya, way-ya. Acha-cha-nea, way-ya, way. Acha-cha-nea, way-ya, way-ya. Acha-cha-nea, way-ya, way. Wichita, do-ya, do-ya, do-ya. Wichita, do and squash. And they lived near each other, lived nearby, but they were different in their size, shape, the clothing that they wear, their strengths and weaknesses. And for a long time, they were complaining about things they couldn't solve on their own, and they hadn't thought yet about how to work together to make life easier. Now, Corn Girl. Corn Girl is tall. She wears a green dress. She's slender. She has golden beads. And her hair, when the wind blows, it rattles like a papery rattle. Shh. Can you make that sound? Shh. Exactly. It's a lovely sound to listen to. Well, Corn Girl stands in some areas about 8 feet. Haudenosaunee are the ones that named this the three sisters, the sustainable sisters. And Corn Girl, although she loves her height, and she looks over at the village and the people, her vista view is beautiful with trees and hills and such beauty. And she sees all the plant people and all the animal people, or she could tell you some stories. The time the rabbit appeared wearing a headdress all on fire. Oh, the things that she has seen. However, she's very tall, but her feet are very, very small. They are so small. She's always concerned that if a wind comes, it could blow her over. And her other concern, now she stands tall and she's looking out after to protect her sisters from the pesky critters, raider raccoon, discerning deers, willful woodchucks, all of them. But she's always afraid they might get her too. So she never really gets much sleep. Not a restful sleep. You're always on guard, always on guard. Now, she makes delicious carbohydrate foods. Yum, 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 yes. But there's no protein in them. And so she's always hungry. Everybody say, oh, so very hungry. Oh, so very hungry. Day after day, she complains about these things. All of them like their independence. And it never occurred to them to try to work together because they were rather prideful in being independent, self-resourceful, and so forth. What else? So she's got small feet. She might grow them. She doesn't make a good nutritious food. Oh my goodness. Those warrior weeds. Now say this. Creeping, crawling, dangling up the roots. Creeping, crawling, dangling up the roots. Oh yes, those warrior weeds. Those, well, the plant people who are not compatible, or the warrior weeds, they interfere with our roots and so forth. So she's got to watch out for that too. But mostly, she is just simply hungry. Oh, so very hungry. Oh, so very hungry indeed. Now there is a third sister. The third sister is Bean. And Bean Girl is also slender, even more thin than her older sister. Now, a Bean Girl doesn't have any problem with a full, nutritious meal. She knows how to get that special spice out of the air, you know, nitrogen. She puts it in the ground and it feeds her. She's never hungry. Not her problem, no. Her problem, you see, is talk about small feet. How about no feet? No feet? Poor Bean Girl. She lays in the ground and she uses her strong tendrils to kind of do some push-ups. Push it up, and she'll hold on to anything, a twig, anything, to get up off the ground. Because when she's in the ground, well, it messes up her beautiful green jumpsuit. And yes, it does. It's just terrible. Who wants to roll around in the mud and dirt? Well, pigs, of course, but, and maybe some kids, of course, but not a Bean Girl. No. And she has to watch out for those bothersome bugs, annoying ants, and awful aphids. They all nibble at her, and she's constantly doing her push-ups, trying to get up off the ground, but she can't. always laying on the ground. The third sister is Pumpkin Girl. Oh, Pumpkin Girl. Pumpkin Girl is rather robust. Rubenesque, you might say. She's curvy, and she is very muscular. Now, she has strong legs, and she has broad, green, prickly, leafy arms. She doesn't have any problems, not much, with the pesky critters, like a caterpillar, because they don't want to climb on her. She's just ever so prickly. And the raccoons and all those guys, they can't get past her big, leafy, prickly arms either. Oh, and how she loves to roam around. She loves traveling. Hello. Talking to all her neighbors. Hello. She's just having a great time with everybody. Everyone loves Pumpkin Girl. She's such a good neighbor. Now, Pumpkin Girl, well, she has the least of the problems, right? She's not too concerned about the pesky critters, nor the warrior weeds, because they can't get past. Who else? Oh, her big problem, she too is hungry. Everybody say, oh, so very hungry. Oh, so very hungry. Yes, indeed. Now, she makes a good meal with vitamins, but there's no protein. So she's continually complaining about how hungry she is. Oh, so very hungry. So, day after day, the girls were complaining and trying to live their lives, but feeling quite uncomfortable. And then, one day, Bingo, she was out there doing her exercises, pushing up with her long tendrils. And, well, she saw a spider. Now, she's watched the bugs before because she's trying to not get bit. But she was really quite charmed by the way that spider could weave the silk from branch to branch, from stalk to stalk. And she began to get that idea. What if I were to take my long tendrils and wrap them around Corn Girl's stalk? I'd get up off the ground. And I hear her complaining. She might blow over in the wind, and I hear her complaining about being hungry, and I'm an excellent cook. Why don't I ask her? And so she did. She turned to her sister and made her a deal. If she could wrap her tendrils around Corn Girl's stalk, then she would feed her the most nutritious meal ever. And naturally, Corn Girl said, yes. And so she began. Up, up, up she climbs, getting higher all the time. Up, up, up she climbs, that's how Bean Girl goes. Twirling, swirling, round and round, the Bean Girl is up off the ground. Oh, look at all of you. Oh, this is so great. I'm up on the ground. Oh, I just love it. And then Corn Girl said, excuse me, could I please have some food? Oh, yes, of course. And she grabbed the nitrogen out of the air. Can you go like this? She put her hands together and she said, Go with me. One more time. She made the most delicious meal ever. And all of a sudden, Corn Girl said, oh, woo-wee, what just happened? I feel really, really good. I feel so happy. Thank you. Well, the two of them started to laugh and laugh and laugh. They were so happy because they had solved some of their problems. Now, Pumpkin Girl was out visiting with the neighbors and having a wonderful time with everybody. And she heard them laughing. Can you all laugh? She heard all this laughter. She went, hey, green leafy arm to get their attention, to ask them a question about what's going on. And all of a sudden, Corn Girl said, yeah, what just happened down there? What, oh, my feet. Oh, they've just cooled off. What's going on down there, girls? And Pumpkin said, it's me! I'm shading your feet. And I see you're being fed by Bean Girl. Well, I tell you what, I can help both of you out. I'll spread my broad green leafy arms. That's what I'll do. I'll keep the soil moist, keep the critters out. Yeah, and keep your feet cool. And, Bee Girl, could you make me a nutritious meal too? Oh, Bee Girl was only too happy to make her a meal too. And so she grabbed, where did she go? She grabbed that special spice. Oh, maybe I'll put her higher so you can see her in the back. She grabbed that special spice called nitrogen. Grab it with me. She put her hands together. One more time. Oh, she made a fantastic meal. So from that day forth, they became excellent companion plants, leading the way for many other companion plants. Now, a warrior weed is not really a weed so much as it's a plant in the wrong place. Like, take tomato. Tomato girl. Now, she would not make a very good companion for these three sisters. Did you plant tomatoes? You know what I'm talking about. Because she loves to move with the air and move to strengthen her arms. She's constantly exercising and spreading out her vines, and they could tangle her. Not only that, when the wind blows, the pollen goes across Corn Girl. She's allergic to that pollen. Not a good roommate, but she makes a fine neighbor if she's much further away. And to help her with the bugs, well, we have basil and cilantro. Do you know about basil? Yummy with mozzarella, right? And basil, yum. Well, that odor is so strong that devilish hornworm can't find Tomato Girl. So they make good companions. There are many more, but it's thanks to the three sisters leading the way. And now these three sisters have been living happily and more healthy than ever. Oh yes, I will. Corn Girl has asked me to remind you that her ancestor is teosinte and tripsicon. They're all have their origins in Mexico. That's a story for another day. Thank you.
And thank you all for coming and enjoying that special story. Alicia's artwork will be here through the next week, is that correct?
Yeah.
So if you want to come back and take a closer look at everything, if you want to hang out today, take a closer look. She's been doing some amazing stuff. She also went into all the classrooms and is making cornhusk dolls with the kids in the schools. So we're just so lucky that she's doing this art show here and how it's connecting to our broader community. So just a huge round of applause. Thank you.
And go to my website, aliciaretes.com. And I have many other programs, but this is one of my favorites because it's so multicultural. And one last thing, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
I wanted to explain why the dolls don't have faces. Have any of you noticed they don't have faces? There's many reasons, but the one that I like the most is because they don't have a face. There ain't no race. You can look at that, you can have they have blue eyes, brown eyes, big noses, small noses, big lips, whatever you can imagine. And so that makes them multicultural. There are other reasons that the indigenous have, but that's one of them, and so that's why I don't put them on the dolls. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you.
raised your hand. So Bill has been a part of the Peace Fest for many, many years, and he's the founder and president of the Unity Foundation, which is an organization that's been promoting peace, cooperation, and unity throughout the world for many, many years. A 45-year history, maybe longer now. 47-year history. And Bill is just been such a supporter of our community by bringing his expertise in the Peace Channel and all of these different elements to our community. And we're just so lucky he's here. And he has a short film that he created. So if you walk down to the East Room, Bill's going to tell you a little bit more about that film. And you can watch that in the East Room right now. It's 8 minutes, I think?
8 minutes and 34 seconds.
8 minutes and 34 seconds. So that's next on our agenda. Also, when you're walking down there, you will see some amazing food. We have the Rev of Your La Cultura program, and Gisela Alvarado is cooking up incredible tacos with her team, agua fresca. And then we have the 8th graders from the Lagunitas School who are selling baked goods to fundraise for their civil rights trip to Alabama. So there's a lot going on as you make your way to the East Room for the short film. But go see the film, grab some food and snacks, and then right around 6 o'clock there's going to be some music starting in the Valley Room with some other special guests in here that I will introduce at that time. So enjoy the rest of the day.
That's not part of our set. That's just.
You have a huge audience that's listening, but they're all outside eating. Everybody can hear it.
Well, I'm on Alexa's schedule. You tell me when we begin and we start.
Yes. We're going to start the panel no later than 6:45. So we have a half hour from right now until we'll start the panel.
Okay.
So about probably 20 minutes, because we gotta sit out.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, people start wandering, everybody's listening outside.
And you
okay.
can hear it really well from the hallway,
Okay.
I believe, yeah.
Let's do, let me start out one way or another. And you can stay
Yeah,
put.
about 20 minutes. About 20 minutes,
Yeah.
and we'll
Yeah.
get set up.
So we'll do one way or another. I'll do bring her up for all themes. Then let's do Songbird, and if there's time, we'll do one of the other ones after that. Okay.
Rivers of Peace.
I mean, Rivers of Peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This one's called One Way or Another. Does everybody want the same thing? One way or another? Is there a heart that doesn't sing? The cry to know the deepest love? Something no one can take away. It's deep inside, can't be stolen. With us till the final day. Very thing that keeps me rolling. People moving faster now. Five things at the same time. Try to keep it all together somehow. Must have moved before you hit your pride. And there's still that place to know. Well before it's time to go. When the kings find their peace, naturally the wars could cease. When the heart has had its say, that's when the people smile and play.
special guests up tonight. Kirk is a very, very special guest, lives here in Lagunitas, just down the road. I'd like to invite our lead guitarist, band in a box guy. And at this time, I'd like to invite my wife, April Walcott, up to help me sing a song. And
I'll give her this microphone.
oh yes, fine, yeah, good idea.
This thing.
Nice little bossa tune for you called Of All the Feelings, written by my husband Ted. Feelings.
Of all.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay. I just wanted to say it loud so everybody could hear.
Of all the feelings.
very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Kirk, come on up. Want to do some stuff here now? Kirk has written this very, very beautiful song called Rivers of Peace. Seems like a fairly appropriate song to sing today at the Peace Festival. Welcome.
Yes. Some people know me by name, just in case you don't know that. You know, I was thinking today how when someone asked me what I want most in the world, it would be world peace. Now tell me if this is too loud, because we can't hear what's coming out. This is like, you're all engineers now. Thank you.
Time for one more?
Yes. Yes.
Do Songbird?
Yes.
Songbird. Another one by Mr. Kirk Greenwave McNaught. They got this component out of HAL. Remember that computer used in 2001?
Yes.
This is HAL's. Yeah.
I hope it obeys.
Buzz.
I did.
Good to see you guys. Stand up. Just a little bit. 3 minutes?
Last song, yeah.
Okay. Okay. That was wonderful, Kurt. Cheer for Kurt McGough.
He was a doctor in a modern office, all the plaques and degrees on the wall. He has his happiest moments were from his childhood, a birthday or Christmas he'd recall. He reached his 60s, began to wonder if the best of his life had come and gone. A cry was calling so deep inside, he found he just couldn't quite ignore its haunting song. What his heart really wanted to feel all along had nothing to do with what he did or what the others could see. Just a simple kind of love, a closer look at life, the very best part of who he would ever be. That's why he's walking true love's way. She's a farmer in a third world country where life's hardly changed in 1,000 years. She has 2 ox, and her tools are simple, but she has the respect of her peers. She needed something, didn't know what, just knew there had to be something more. Wondering what life is truly for. What she thought all along, she needed to be happy, a husband and kids, a place she could call her own. Until it one day struck her, the love that never left her, the purest she'd ever known. That's why she's walking true love's way. And now she walks the road for those who understand the treasure that they seek in life is closer than their hand. That's why she's walking true love's way. That's why he's walking true love's way.
Thank you all very much. That concludes the music portion for tonight, and hope you all enjoyed it.
All right. So, I mean, isn't this an incredible, movable feast tonight? I mean, it's just, this is our 9th year? 8th year. And of course, the last 2 years have been only virtual. So it's nice to get back in person. Zoila, will you show off your shirt, please? Yeah. That was from 2017. And yeah, isn't that wonderful? So yeah, thank you everybody for being here. This has just been such a special night so far. And so this is kind of a big moment for the community center, you know, after 2 years of just doing almost every event virtually. So tonight we're back in person, but we're also going to be hybrid. And one of our panelists, David, he is in. I don't even know, where's David?
He's East Coast.
He's on the East Coast. All right. And so he's joining our panel from the East Coast. So and this is being broadcast all over the place. So this is really exciting, and thank you all for being here. And I'm going to hand it over to Alexa to introduce our panelists. And hi, Dahlia. And this is going to be really great.
As Dave said, thanks everyone for being here. The panel discussion was part of the Peace Fest that was created during the pandemic out of necessity. We moved everything online. We had a hybrid or a virtual only panel discussion that was our Peace Fest for 2 years, and we couldn't let it go when we came back to in person, so we wanted to include it. And we have some really, really special people here tonight, and as Dave said, and not here, but here via the screen. So I'm going to introduce our panelists. Then the format for tonight is we're going to have some questions I have some pre-questions that I've created for each of the panelists. And then I do want an opportunity for our audience to be able to interact directly and ask some questions of our panelists. So if you have a question, keep it with you, and then at the end there will be a chance for you to ask your questions and to interact as well. And thanks everyone for being here. So first I want to introduce David Weinberg. He's a lawyer and a lifelong peace and community activist. He's the executive director of the Global Peace Education Network and the co-founder of peacechannel.com, curating news and music about peace and planet. Say hi, David.
Hey, everyone.
Next, I want to introduce Juan Carlos Ruiz, who is the founder of E3, Education, Excellence, and Equity. And one cannot have educational equity without excellence. And through training, coaching, and specialized tools, E3 empowers educators to embrace the diverse lived experiences of all students and translates them into competencies so they can actualize their brilliance. Recently, Juan Carlos has been working with the West Marin Coalition for Equity and Justice to support them in shifting power structures in the nonprofit sector here in West Marin. Welcome, Juan Carlos. Next, I want to introduce Alexis Feynman. She's a climate activist, an advocate, and educator who, as she describes it, fell down a rabbit hole and into a seat on the San Anselmo Town Council and is now the San Anselmo Mayor. Now, Alexis works at the intersections of community, climate, education, and local policy, seeking opportunities to mitigate emissions and build local resilience. Welcome, Alexis. Also with us tonight is Dahlia Camisar, and Dahlia is a Valley local and a practitioner of nonviolent communication, and she's been doing this for over 12 years. And Dahlia is a big friend of the community center and has been involved in so many projects over the years, and we can't wait to hear what she has to share with us about nonviolent communication and how that interacts with our peace work. Welcome, Dahlia. Finally, I want to introduce Nicole Ramirez, who is the Director of Human Services and Youth Programs right here at the Community Center, and she believes that change starts one valley at a time. And through her direct service work with youth and those most vulnerable, Nicole is instrumental in providing food security, affordable child care, and other critical safety net services to those who otherwise would be left behind. Welcome, Nicole. Here. So I want to start by giving each panelist an opportunity to introduce themselves a little bit more. And really, I want I want you to think about, what does peace mean to you, and in what areas of your life are you pursuing peace? And let's start in the middle and start with
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me tonight as part of this panel. So I guess if it's okay, I'll just share a little bit of how I ended up on the council, because I think it's related to a sense for what peace means for me, or to me. But I live very close to a community garden in San Anselmo. It's a habitat and native plant garden. And a couple years ago, right around the time I'd moved into the neighborhood, council had this idea to tear out most of the garden and put some bocce courts in there. And I really love plants, and I spent a lot of time actually with the responsible. To me, it seemed like a really stupid idea, and I got to council. I guess some of the community members the value called the Elders Garden.
Peace seems to me to feel and invite connection, to speak more honestly and to listen more skillfully. And I started meditating when I was 21, and we meditated for decades. And about 12 years ago, I wondered why I write, but I wondered why I was so attracted to silence, because I never considered myself a fearful person. It didn't look like I was fearful. Less fearful than other people, maybe, but I realized that I wanted to have with speech the comfort that I felt with silence. And that started me on a journey. Connie Smith-Siegel invited me a few days with that realization to join a practice group in nonviolent communication. And we studied a little bit with Marshall Rosenberg before he died, and we've been meeting the same group of 6 to 8 people, regular is one of them, for 12 years, actually. And nonviolent communication was developed by Marshall Rosenberg, who devoted his life to understand the roots of violence. And that's more of this later, how I perceive that. But thank you. Hi, everybody. I probably don't need a microphone. My name is Nicole Ramirez, and work here, obviously. I spend most of my time here. And for me, peace actually kind of begins here with my community and in my heart. And that's really where it kind of resonates with me, and sharing that serenity with, the children I work with, the colleagues I work with, and also in our community, and helping nurture these growing minds that we work with every day. I get to work with our youngest of our community members. So that's, for me, is where peace begins, creating a better place and a better space for our youngest, our most vulnerable.
Hello, everyone. Inspired by listening to all of you share, and so I think to answer the question, I'd ask us to do a 10-second exercise, which would be whether you want to keep your eyes open or closed, it doesn't matter, but take 10 seconds, and I'll come in my mind, but take 10 seconds to just think, what's in your mind, what's going on in your mind, that if you could write it down or just put it down on a piece of paper or just, say it in your mind, what are those things that are going on in your mind right now that are keeping you from being fully present? We got a lot of things. It's Saturday, I don't know what that is. Dishes, movie show, family drama, whatever it is. So just take 10 seconds and see what happens. Okay. So as you noted that, whether you're fully present and here or not doesn't even matter. What I learned when I think about the answer to that question is, I remember I've been on this earth 6 decades, right? 6 decades have passed since I've been here. And I remember as a first-year teacher in a rural space in Florida creating a peace day. And after our second year, we had like 16,000 people. And this is before Google, obviously. We all remember that. We remember that we were born in the last century. I love to say that to children. Makes me feel even older. And so we had to use a thing called fax machines to get people, we had to write letters. And we had a whole town stop for 1 minute for peace. And I thought, wow, 16,000 people from around the world that we could connect with for 1 minute. And I thought that was what peace was in my naive world. And yes, sure, a deeper sense of peace that I would offer now is the space of this concept of listening to ourselves and courageously being willing to accept our own brilliance. And that is a struggle because everything we've been taught, regardless of what we know about our lives, I guarantee you that society has systematically told you that you are not 100% amazing, beautiful, brilliant, etc., etc. And I think that's what I think about to define peace, that it is sure outward of what that could look like. But when I hear nonviolence, when I hear about peace, and I think about the children here, and even being in with nature, how really it goes inward, that work, and how important that is. Because then that's how you can then show up to the rest of the world.
And David, you're next.
Okay, well, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here in the valley, at least virtually. I'm actually on the other side of the continent. I'm really just a short walk from Long Island Sound. So it's like that graphic you always see of the airplane flying from one side to the other. So, I try to start with myself, and I have a daily practice that I do to try to get to the source of peace in myself, because I believe I cannot, it's more than belief. I really experience that if I'm not feeling peace, not much I can do to bring peace into the outside world. It's got to start with me. So that, as everyone here, I think, has just said, every panelist has just said, peace it's not the absence of conflict or the absence of war. It's something positive. And the nature of experience, not just peace, but every experience, is that it really, I can tell you that we happen to have the world's greatest pizza here on the East Coast, sorry, in my town. And I can tell you that it's called Carpenzano's. I can tell you, oh, it has peppers and it has olives and they're just cooked to the right degree of. You don't know what I'm talking about, not really, until you taste it. And you're all invited, by the way. But until you taste it, you haven't had the experience. It's an experience. It's something that happens inside of us. And peace is the same kind of thing. We can all talk about it to each other, but it's got to start in us. But then I kind of feel like if it just starts in us and stops in us, am I wasting air by being here? I don't know. I don't want to judge anybody else, but I feel like I've got to do something with that peace once I have it. And the thing, because you asked the question, what do I do with it in my life? Right now, and for the last 70 years, I guess, the toughest struggle is living that peace with the people around me, with my family, with my friends. Because I'm really good at talking about peace. But I have this ongoing dialogue with the universe saying, you mean I got to really do this stuff? Like, really? And that's tough. I have a little mantra I'm working on now, and it's called give no offense, take no offense, don't seek revenge. That's a big challenge for me. I'm a lawyer. And then following that mantra becomes even more difficult if you get into the sphere of politics, because I look at people who disagree with me and I take a lot of offense. How can they think that way? And that goes to my judging them. And I wish I could tell you that I don't, but I do. And I even wish all kinds of things upon them if I'm not careful. So I'm always trying to practice it. And then a lot of you panelists are involved. I mean, the other aspect of peace is living in peace and harmony with the world in which we live, not just the people, but the whole environment. And that too, it's easy to talk about it and it's easy to judge all the people who, oil companies and people who want to, but then, I'm faced with, do I put this bottle in recycle, which requires me to walk 10 feet, or, do I just throw it in the trash because it's there? And that's a daily, I'd like to say, oh, I've got it down, but no, I don't. I'm always looking at my own behavior, my own footprint. So that's it. That's how I try to practice peace every day. And, on good days, I'm successful.
Thank you, David. So something you said led me into a question that I have for Dahlia around our world does seem to be extremely divided. When you look at any political issue, it feels like everyone's on the opposite side of some spectrum from one another. And I'm curious how you imagine the tools of nonviolent communication making a difference in these issues. How do we get from opposites to some point where we can work on solutions together?
I'm really glad you asked that question. The practice of nonviolence is to undo all that we've learned. We operate bad and good, right and wrong. The judgments that you're talking about, David, perhaps. All acts can be seen as an attempt to meet our needs. The needs are the impulses of our life that we as living beings share, that we all have in common. Needs are things that we all want in our lives, but by needs, I don't mean I like a partner, a nice house, a new car. These are strategies. Needs are an experience. So I'd like to call out some needs, and I'd like you to feel the experience of these needs that are when they're met for you. Some are more important to you than others.
So I'm just going to say some of the, when I'm talking about needs, there are things like that we all share: choice, the need for acceptance, connection, consideration, support, effectiveness, growth, understanding, beauty, order, hope, care, comfort, shelter, water, touch, humor, joy, or relaxation, harmony, understanding. These are not good or bad needs. Needs don't conflict. Strategies do. By awareness of our needs and our feelings and our judgments don't go away. We're always going to have judgments. But it's what but the judgments can point to our needs. Country, family. So by awareness, we notice and translate judgments into needs. So, and actually the beginning of nonviolent practice is to study and develop a vocabulary for feelings. If you don't have a vocabulary for feelings, you start with sad, mad, and glad. And that'll work. Because that'll work. Sad, mad, glad. And there are feelings that are associated with unmet needs and with met needs. Feelings associated, you can feel how feelings associated with unmet needs are anger, numbness, dread, sadness, things that are feelings that are feelings that are associated with met needs may be amazed, compassionate, ecstatic, recharged, quiet, relaxed. So that's what I just wanted to give a little introduction. When I joined the practice group 12 years ago, for the first 6 months, I couldn't speak. I just cried. That it was possible to learn to speak in the way that I was hearing models. So, thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Dahlia. My next question is for Nicole, and since we work together, we've talked about this idea of meeting people's most basic needs through our programs and services. And so Nicole works in our food pantry and has provided financial assistance and really is meeting people at their most basic needs, as you're talking about, Dahlia, and providing a sense of security and safety that they wouldn't otherwise have. And Nicole, I'm interested to hear you talk a little bit about how alleviating poverty, supporting people in these ways, where some people view those as, oh, it's a handout, or this is, you're enabling. Why, can you talk a little bit about how meeting these needs and supporting people in these ways is actually a part of this bigger conversation related to peace?
Definitely. Well, I think to thrive, those needs need to be met, and it's a right of everyone that those needs are met. And I feel like we're doing, a little part of meeting those needs to help people thrive. Food, shelter, the ability to play safely and be, meeting those needs are something that everyone should have a right to. And it's something that if we offer it, to our youngest and our oldest, we can then have this community thrive and watch the growth and the development. But eliminating or helping to eliminate, poverty and hunger is something that I'm very passionate about, and something that our team is passionate about as well. And something that it's essential to living and to finding that solitude. You need those basic needs of food and shelter. It saddens me when someone has to decide whether to pay rent or buy groceries, and that shouldn't be a decision that people are making in this world, frankly. It should be a given that everyone has those things. And a thriving community, I feel, is where we all lift each other. It's not, the people who have are lifting the ones who don't. And the people who, don't have are helping those who have less. So we're rising, lifting each other together. And I think that's something that we're working at. We're pitching, every week we're trying to eliminate that here at least. Like Alexa said, one valley at a time.
So Juan Carlos, I want to hear a little bit from you next around looking at peace through this lens of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. And I think that there's the last 2 years in particular during the pandemic, I feel like there was this awakening in our community, which was long overdue. And I think part of the conversation is around having a deep personal reckoning around who you are in this conversation related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, how your community fits into that. And can you just speak a little bit to how, looking at peace through that lens and why those steps are so important in working towards solutions?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate David's remark that peace is not the absence of conflict, which many of us have heard. And the response I would offer is these three pieces. First and foremost, just let's accept that there's nothing wrong in this world for a moment. For a moment. Go with me on this. Just for a moment. Come November, there are going to be 8 billion people on this planet. So when we start saying that there are wrong things, that means that there are automatically right things. And the question I always want to offer is, who's right? Most likely there are 8 billion right ways to do things. I appreciate what you said, Dalia, about conflict is not necessarily in the needs, but it's in the strategies. And so, if there's nothing wrong, it's really what's missing. What's missing that, when put in place, would create a more fuller experience. And that leads, and that had led me to this next aha moment, and that is this space of diversity is something that we have been socialized to fear. And I'm not going to go into the neuroscience of this, but our amygdala has been wired this way. And diversity, anything that's diversity, I always do the activity of how can you tell the difference between perceived threat and a real threat? And your brain really doesn't know. So that leads me to the third point here, that it is a personal journey, as you had mentioned. And the invitation is to go through that personal journey of conflict and turmoil. And what I can offer is that by putting your feet to the fire and starting to understand how those diverse experiences create a complicated story in your life and in the lives of our communities, can you come to peace with it? And I offer the example of just only my story, that I get to say that I'm a survivor of somebody of sexual assault, but I'm not a woman, so that's different. I'm a survivor of racism, with lynching being part of my story, but I'm not Black in this country. I'm a survivor of the then low expectations because of my language being an immigrant to this country, and now I have this California accent. I know how to say hella a lot. And so I now have this professional accent and initials with my name that then I'm no longer that same immigrant. And in that turmoil that I had to go with reckoning, it took a long time to think, and I think David shared this, that it's not out in the world that I was trying to right the wrongs that had happened to me, and I wanted to make sure no one else would go through that, but rather to really take my own words of what was missing, and what was missing is me. My full humanity is what was missing. But being that I never had an opportunity to grow up in my fullness, and I was shied away from that, it's only now in my later years that I'm exploring through that conflict in my life. And I wonder, and I'll leave this for you all to consider, that I'm assuming we all, well, I don't, but you all live in San Geronimo Valley, we all live in Marin County, and that you hold on to this conflict, that you may or may not know the details of Huk Muis, who was one of the people who encountered the conquistadores, and he was enslaved into one of the missions, escaped, they caught him again, put him back 2 or 3 times, and every time they had him enslaved, they had him come around all over, but he was running around these hills, one valley at a time. And we now call this Marin County because that's his baptized name. And that's Huk Muis. But we don't know his story, but we all live somewhere here in Marin County because of the genocide of the coastal Miwoks. I stand before you and I have to think to myself, okay, I'm speaking to an audience that looks very white to me. How do I get calm that the conflict is not with you but within me, but still wrestle and be okay in that conflict? And I invite you to go through that exploration of what does that mean for you, of where you live, who you interact with, and go through that personal journey and start to identify those needs that were shared with us. Is it happy, sad, mad, nervous, scared? But that inward journey might just be what Paulo Freire says, that it is only the oppressed that can free the oppressor. Whenever I can, and I get to do that with Dave, that I free him from all those insecurities he may have because of the relationship I have with him. And I invite you to go through that same journey so that you can yourself free your own mind from the oppression that you've been held onto that says you can't speak to people like me. I don't know what to do with my land that I have. Do I give it back to the coastal Miwoks or not? How do I engage with the world? I invite you to go through that journey.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. Notes. Alexis, my next question is for you. I am interested to hear a little bit about how you view climate justice and the climate crisis that we're in, and how this is a part of the peace conversation about peace with the planet, and how does that fit into the broader picture?
Thank you. Well, I think the first thing that I think about when I think about this question is that the climate crisis is a symptom, a really big symptom, in the same sense that a fever is a symptom, of just extraordinary violence, extraordinary unpeace, that really starts in, there's, some people call this era the Anthropocene, the era of humans being a geological influence on the planet. But whenever that term is used, there's many critics who say, actually, this isn't a human problem, it's not a biological problem. We're not wired to be living in this way that is violent to each other and to the earth. It's really an economic problem and a political problem that in many ways has its roots in colonization and the extraction of resources and the accumulation of wealth. So I think thinking about the climate crisis as a symptom and not a problem unto itself helps me orient a little bit more fully towards the way that climate justice is connected with other forms of justice. And by orient more fully, I think it's for me a little bit more of like a maybe a theoretical framework, because the reality is I'm a white woman in Marin County, representing a very affluent community for a lot of my waking hours, and so I feel I feel a little bit like silly almost talking about climate justice from that perspective, but I think where it connects with violence is just understanding the violence of how we've gotten here, and if we had been more fully human with each other for centuries leading up to this point, we would have stopped, because you have communities who have been displaced, you have genocide, you have folks who are living next to oil refineries and suffering from it. And so all of these things have been going on for much longer than this sort of like immediate crisis of overheating that we're currently in. But if we had been more fully human or living more peacefully with each other, we would have found other ways to live long ago. We wouldn't be here. So that's kind of where I think the one aspect of peace comes into this. And I'm, standing on the shoulders of a lot of Twitter scholars, so can't take credit for all of this as original thought per se. But the other piece is that the climate crisis is already creating violence where perhaps there wouldn't have been conflict, and it will continue to do so as systems around us really, fail. Social systems in some senses, food systems, ecological systems, of course. So something that I think about a lot is, climate migration, and we haven't even handled regular migration with compassion. So I don't know. The scale of really what's going to be coming in the coming decades is hard to really even think about. But I think the more that we think about these things now, when it's not necessarily right in front of us, although for some of us it may be, the more we'll be able to approach problems from a place of feeling resourced and feeling, complete and able to give, and not just view everything as a threat. So I guess that's kind of where I come from at that question from. And then the final thing is representing a pretty affluent community. Um, there's over not all humans are contributing to the crisis equally, right? There's systems here that are way skewed in terms of which spheres of humans are responsible for creating these systems and upholding them and benefiting from them, and which humans are suffering from them. And of course, it's more than human too, right? It's fish and insects and everything. But so I view one way of making peace is really trying to do as much within my community to shift us away from this kind of overconsumption or away from upholding these systems. And I think for me, that's kind of the piece that I'm trying to carve out for myself.
Thanks, Alexis. David, your work really centers around peace education through the Peace Channel and the Global Peace Education Initiative. You're really working on bringing people together who are committed to peace as a concept. And I'm eager for you to talk a little bit more about what each of those things are and what are the aspirations for the Peace Channel and for the Global Peace Education Initiative.
Well, thanks. And let me talk a little bit. I have a colleague who, for the last 2 decades, has been coordinating something called the Global Campaign for Peace Education. His name's Tony Jenkins. And he talks about 5 spheres, 5 interlocking spheres of peace education. It starts with the personal. They're personal, social, political, institutional, and ecological. So the personal is discovering a source of peace within ourselves, finding some way to get in touch with the peace that we're born with. Because, at least in my personal experience, that's what gives me the strength and the insight. And another word I would use for that peace is humanity. It puts me in touch with what's basically human in me so that I can carry that into every other activity. Then there's the social. And some of us are talking, how do you communicate nonviolently? How do you, Juan Carlos, you were talking about conflict. And another little mantra that I have is conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional. There's what another friend of mine, Prem Rawat, talks about. There's a euphoric vision of peace where we all go around like this and we call each other brother and sister and we hug each other. But is that real? Come on. We're human beings. We're always going to argue. We're always going to want to compete with one another. That's not the issue. It's what do we do with that? How far do we take it? So the social, we need to learn to interact with each other peacefully. We certainly need to learn what's politics? It's learning how to work together for a common goal. There's a lot of conflict inherent there. What is the common goal? What's good for everybody? What do I get out of it? There's a lot of questions there. But, there is a way to do it. We've been doing it for at least thousands of years. So you can learn how to do politics. We can learn how to create institutions that preserve peace. In fact, I'll share one that may surprise you. You think of the justice system, what's it called? With peace officers, keeping the peace, disturbing the peace. Because somewhere along the road, humans said, hey, we've got to get some kind of common agreement here so we can live in peace. Is it a great system? But it shows the human tendency to want peace. It's not, to me, it's not a great system, but it shows that we want to go there. We want to live together in peace. And then finally, as we're saying here, we think of ourselves as being separate from the planet, and that's what leads. Well, that's what leads. We think of ourselves as being separate from other human beings. And if I'm separate from you, I can starve you, hurt you, exploit you, oppress you, kill you, because you're not me. If you're me, unless there's something really, really wrong with me, I'm not going to do those things to you if I think you're me. And the same thing, we're made up of elements, you know, we're walking dirt, right? Living, breathing, walking dirt. And when that breath leaves us, boom, we're back. We're part of the planet. Again, we still are. We're not separate. It's the separation that lets us abuse and vandalize and mistreat and disrespect the world around us, the species around us, life around us, humans around us, because we don't see ourselves as part. So peace education is sort of the remedy to that. As children, we know this stuff, right? Kind of. We're sort of born happy, even under the worst of circumstances. You talk to anybody that grew up in poverty, right? And most people don't discover that they're poor until they start to get a little 5, 6 years old. Same with racism of any kind, right? No, you don't notice. To somebody, you have to learn to be a racist. You're not born a racist. Just the opposite. I had a friend that you know, one day it dawned on him that the flesh-colored Band-Aid, this was, you know, a long time ago, that it wasn't the color of his flesh. But, and then that was like, oh my God, there's race. But we're not born like that. So to me, the peace education is, like for children, is teaching children how to stay children, right? How to keep what they already have, to unlearn what we older folks are trying to shove down their throats, and just stay themselves. So Peace Education Network, Global Peace Education Network, we started this a couple years ago, and we have now, I would guess, probably about 150 different organizations around the world, and we're saying, in all those 5 spheres that I just talked about, we don't care how you define peace. I don't care if you define peace as the absence of war. I really don't care. If you're on the side of peace, I want to work with you. Because you know what? The people that put profit before people, they're organized. You know, our culture, we prepare for war, we talk about war, we entertain ourselves with war. It's very difficult for us to become aware, if you're speaking, how much war permeates our language. You know, we say, if we're about to start something, yeah, I'm ready to pull the trigger. Do we have boots on the ground? I'd kill for that. It just, here comes the cavalry. It's everywhere in our language. Everything in our culture is aimed at war. And the people and that's not an accident, I don't believe. And the people that promote that profit, they are organized. They never miss an opportunity for war. They're on it. If they can breed some conflict, they're on it. If they can sell some weapons, they're on it. And are we that organized, those of us who want to promote peace? That's what the Global Peace Education Network is all about. We say, if we prepared for peace the way we prepare for war, we wouldn't be in this mess. So that's the goal of the Global Peace Education Network. We're trying to have a Global Peace Education Day passed by the United Nations. It's kind of our organizing tool right now, an awareness tool. So I could go on, but I won't. I'll tell you, you asked me about Peace Channel. So a few years back, my wife and partner in a lot of these enterprises, and she happens to be a clinical psychologist. She also happens to be African American. And if you think being married to somebody for 20 years is going to bridge that diversity divide, that's a nice thought, but you'd be sadly mistaken. That's a discussion we have every day because I can't possibly understand what her life experience is. And I'm often reminded of that, both personally and not. So, but she really said to me, you know, people, everyone in our culture, no matter what their background is, we're all bombarded by these negative images in the media, right? Negative images about women, negative images about different demographic groups, including, by the way, disadvantaged, poor, rural white people are always portrayed in a very negative, you know, we're always being bombarded with these negative images in the media. And then we see the news, and what does the news tell us? Abandon hope, all ye who enter here, right? Be afraid, be very afraid. The liberal media is no different than the conservative media. They're all telling us gloom, doom, be scared, there's no hope. So we said, all right, can we invent a media that does something different, that entertains, that we will curate? We want popular entertainment, but we'll curate it and try to avoid that negative imagery. Try to tune into positive imagery. And we will show news, and we're not going to like pretend that there's nothing wrong in this world, because there's plenty wrong in this world. We're going to look at it, but we're going to present solutions. And I don't know if my friend Bill McCarthy is in the room there, but we joined with him. We started this Peace Channel, and then we got together with Bill McCarthy, and actually Ted Wright's been a part of this too. In fact, one of the earliest videos that we showed in one of our first broadcasts was of this Peace Festival. And people at this Peace Festival somewhere in Marin County talking about why they were there. And that was the kind of news that we wanted to present. And we try to find news from all over the world about how communities are addressing these giant issues that face us. I'll give you just two of my favorite examples. One has to do in Bangladesh with people growing fish in their backyards. And how does it work? They dig a hole, they throw some water in, they throw this, I forget even what they throw these fish in the pond, and these fish multiply, and then they eat them. And it made a huge difference in the birth rate there and in infant mortality. Why? Because people could eat. And it was simple. It didn't require a manufacturing plant. It didn't require an agribusiness. It just required neighbors sharing fish with one another. And another little story that we did was in South America. Apparently, if you take an empty Coke bottle and you fill it with detergent and you stick it in your ceiling, guess what? You have a light at night. No hydroelectric plant, no need to talk to the electric company. You're recycling at the same time. This is like really simple. And there's a lot of really so anyway, That's what we try to show. We try to have uplifting, positive music, and we try to have news on how people just like you and me all over the world are addressing their community's problems, and maybe we'll pick something up from what they're doing, and maybe they'll pick something up. Very simple idea. Peacechannel.com, streaming right now, our brand new Peace Day global broadcast is streaming right now. When you go home or before you go home, go to your phone, peacechannel.com, press play.
Thank you, David. So I know we all could talk to these people for hours and hours, but in about 10 minutes, we're transitioning to a whole other element of Peace Day where we're watching a film in the courtyard. But I wanted to give an opportunity if anyone had a question or a comment, but again, we have 10 minutes, so just raise your hand if you'd like to ask anything or say anything. Yes, go ahead.
I've been having this conversation a lot about how, what you were saying, David, we have to tell good stories. That we're so bombarded with the bad news, and we just go, no, I can't do it. And there's so many inspiring examples out there of people actually making a difference. So telling those stories, well, I got to work for the Marine Agricultural Land Trust for 20 years, telling the story of great food, and people got inspired, and how farmers can stay on the land, and there's things all over, like you were saying, David, where people are, and we just have to, it's a matter of shifting our focus and going, yes, there's things you can do, and then you can empower young people. Oh, look, they could do this, they make a difference, you go do that too. So, yeah, I just feel it's such a huge thing that's so important in education and just our own minds to find those stories of success.
Yeah, just jumping in on that too, because one of the beauties of this project has been the integration and collaboration between the community center and the Lagunitas School District. And throughout the entire month, there's been activities going on with the school. And again, we're so appreciative of Ed Maples Family Foundation that supported both the community piece and the school piece. So like this as all the panelists, I know, Nicole's mentioning this every day, but how can, I know the answer myself, but kind of on a more global, national, global picture, how can we make changes within the educational systems, both here in California and our country, throughout the world? Energy where kids are so, they don't have this until, the 3, 4, I really keep it going. I don't know what Carlos said, I know, some work in your organization.
Well, I'll just say, yes, let's keep focusing on positive of the great things that are happening. And it starts with being able, with our school children, to start talking about the conflicts and the trauma and the drama that's happening. We're not going to stop that. But what we can do is help educate our children by saying, oh, you just got moved out from here to over there because of whatever trauma just happened. Oh, you have ability skills. What you just had to figure out to decide your family rent and food, and sounds like you're being very innovative right now. Now, if I'm a classroom teacher, I'm empowering students to start to translate their life experiences into skills that will bring diverse ideas of how to solve things. Like when David talked about what's happening in Bangladesh or South America, those are innovative skills, but we're not treating them like innovative skills. So I'd love to see our education system start to measure not just who's smart, but rather how brilliant our students are because of their life experiences that can be translated into these skills of being innovative, adaptive, collaborative, and whatnot. And I think that would be a great space for us to move in. And yes, our organization is in, I think now 6 countries and 20 states doing that type of work. But there are many other ideas as well of how. I mean, I'll just say quickly, when I came today and I got a plate of food, you don't know me, but I felt welcomed. Can we just do that? Can we just do that? But yet, it's because you feel welcomed where you are right now, at peace with herself and the community that she's in. So how do we do more of that?
You know, I would add one thing to that, which is, you know, you were talking about being in other countries. We've had, as the Global Peace Education Network, some success in persuading whole countries that you need to incorporate peace education into the educational system. There are curriculum around, there are teachers who know it, but that government stamp that says, yes, we must do it, that's a big help. That takes some collective will, but it's doable. We've done it in about half a dozen. We've done it in Italy, South Africa, Colombia, Malawi, a few other countries that are in Spain. We've gotten the governments to say, yes, peace education is important and we need to include it in our curricula. That opens the door for folks like our panel to walk into the school and say, hey, guess what? I've got a peace education program.
Can I ask a question? Do we have nonviolent communication, being that we have a nonviolent communication expert in our Lagunitas School District, for example, as our way of handling issues of discipline? I don't know the answer, but that would be a great, another curriculum piece to add into our space.
What made Corey,
Well, there's been, it's like, depending when Susan Shannon was here, yes, we did, and I don't know how much of it has lingered, and, you know, as the administration changes and the focus change, but at times it has been. I don't know how fully it is right now. And I know the school district is working towards a more restorative justice model of discipline, and I think we're seeing that across Marin County, actually, this movement, and I give a lot of credit to Don Carney and Transforming Justice and the work that they're doing, but kind of building these healing circles around that take into account indigenous practices and all these other things. And I know our school district is in touch with them, and I don't know how far we've got, but it's a good step, yeah.
I know that we, as a community center, because we take care of the children, we do our children to use nonviolent communications to resolve their issues amongst each other and eliminate us, the adults, so they can gain these skills to move forward. We do our part.
Yeah.
well, we're so proud. You know, I think a lot of you got to talk to those students, those 8th grade students, and I mean, this district is so proud to have this civil rights trip. Alexa got to go on it last May. Nicole went out. I don't know if anybody else in here. And, you know, I know Peter's got a lot to say about it. He did a lot of this work almost 30 years ago right here in the valley. So the thing is, we've got to get it institutionalized right in there. There's just no passion about it.
So that concludes our panel, but before we give everyone a round of applause, I want to encourage you to stick around because we are going to be showing a film, Who We Are, Chronicles of Racism in America, which actually trip, and begins this conversation about reckoning with our history and how do we move forward from there. And I think if you stop and get yourself a treat and then go to the movies to support the trip so that they can go this spring. And with that, let's give our panelists a huge round of applause.
We have chairs out there, so you don't need to schlep your chair out there, right?
There are some chairs out there. I don't know how much is set up, but yeah, we'll grab a chair out there. And then lastly, I want our teams and event coordinator here, Danielle. And then Ted and April, thank you again for all that you do.
Because this has come up a couple of times, Family Foundation, what's that all about? Actually, my parents, Jack and Patty Wright, wanted to start a foundation that supported environmental and peace initiatives, and they passed away before they were able to pull it off. And then some 10 years later, my three brothers and I were able to resurrect that idea, but we kept the name as the Patty and Jack Wright Foundation. We support humanitarian stuff, mostly in the Bay Area, but also for natural disasters like what's happening in Afghanistan, these other things. But I feel very, very honored. I think they would be so pleased to see that their foundation is doing this in their own county and has supported this peace festival for 8 years. And the roots that this has grown are just astounding. So thank you all for being a part of it.